looking at 3 organizations today. NECPA, who is our employer, NAEYC and NAC Accreditation. And everybody can see that screen, all right? Yes? Okay, perfect. So again, just a quick intro. My name is Storm Webb. I serve as the Executive Director for NECPA and have done so now for going on 12 years. Before that, I served at my grandmother's early childhood programs. She's been a provider for 54 years. She likes to say since Moses was a crossing guard. So I have the pleasure of continuing to serve what my family's kind of legacy is, just in a different capacity. Joining me today is my colleague, Sarah. So Sarah, I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, good afternoon. My name is Sarah Passero. I'm the Director of Accreditation for NECPA. I've been with the organization for about 10 years now, working with Storm and our small team. Thank you everyone for coming. I'm just excited to speak with some of you and learn about what your needs are over the next few months.
And since I will continually try to look at myself in this camera, I'm going to go ahead and stop my video so I can really focus in on our presentation today. So thank you. All right.
Storm, I just asked a question. We got a question in the chat. Just making sure, asking if they're muted. I believe that they're set to mute, but they can unmute if they have a question, correct?
You are correct. Yes. Yes. If you have any questions, and I've got the chat popped up in the corner here, and we do have a Q&A as well. So if you have questions you'd like answered after or during the presentation, just feel free to pop them in. I've presented this quite a few times at different state associations, the last one being the New Mexico Child Care Association. And we did a poll for that presentation, and I thought it would just be helpful to kind of get a temperature gauge for today's presentation and to see if you feel the same way. You know, what are some things that you think about when you hear the word accreditation or when you're thinking about the accreditation process? Do you agree with the things you see on the screen? Is there something that you'd like to add to? That way we can see, you know, are there things that we can unpack together? More rigorous parts of the process and highlight how it can be rewarding for you and ultimately the children that you serve. And going to our next slide, I'll go ahead and do our first poll. So what's your biggest concern or question about going through the accreditation process? So I'll go ahead and launch that. And I know there's quite a few areas, so we'll give ourselves about 20 seconds just to go through and answer those. So are you concerned with fees, qualifications, timeline, the self-study process, verification visit day, or award maintenance? I should have put in other, but I didn't think about that. So if there's something else that's not in the poll that you'd like to go ahead and add to the chat, please feel free to do so. All right, we'll do another 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, great participation. Thank you so much. We'll go ahead and show those results for everybody to see. So it looks like the overall most area of concern is that timeline. We have some good confidence, somewhat concern with self-study. Award maintenance, we got that in the bag. We want to review the visit day process in depth. Perfect. Okay, thank you so much. This is quite a chunky presentation, so it really helps me just to zone in on those areas that we want to really focus on. So each of these slides goes through NAEYC, NECPA, and NAC accreditation. Oh, sorry about the poll not letting you enter that or behave for you. If you wanted to go ahead and share any concerns that you did have just in the chat or in the Q&A directly with us, we're happy to address those for you. As we serve with NECPA, we are not NAEYC or NAC experts, but we have gathered everything directly from either their websites or through forms and information available for download on both of these agencies' in websites. So we want to give you the power to reach out to both of these organizations if you have additional questions for the NAEYC or the NAC team. We've served alongside them in several state work groups. We work together for advocacy. You can't go wrong choosing any of these organizations. They're phenomenal people and great teams. Each of us has the same intention and goal in mind. We just may approach it with different steps. So we'll review those together. In addition to the 3 agencies or organizations that we're going to look at today, there are additional organizations that are approved in Oklahoma. So although we won't have time to look at all of them today with you, if you wanted to reach out to them, here is their information, and we can provide some contact information as well in our follow-up. So our primary focus today is going to be just a few areas. Cost, support, and resources. What's the process to go through accreditation and the standards that match that process? Qualifications, eligibility for your program, as well as timeline. All right, one more poll, and then that's the last one I'll ask you for. So how familiar are you with accreditation? And on a scale of 0 to 5, 0 being, I've never done any accreditation before, talk me through everything. 5 being, I got this in the bag. All right, we'll give everybody just a couple more seconds. Seems like this poll is doing much better for folks, so that's good. All right, we'll do 5 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. I'll go ahead and end the poll and share the results. So we've got some folks that have done this process before, but it looks like the majority are brand new to the process. So thank you for your time today in reviewing this with us. All right. So to really give us a framework for success, we're going to go through just a preliminary overview of what accreditation entails, give you some terminology that we're going to use throughout today's presentation, as well as what those steps mean. So we'll go through each of these steps more in depth in the following slides, but each organization has a beginning, middle, and a finish. So to start, each agency does some sort of self-study or enrollment, meaning they provide you with the standards that they hope you to meet, and then you go through self-assessment. So you look at those standards, and you look at the program that you serve, and you say, yes, we're doing all these things, or here are some areas for improvement, and you put together materials to support those answers. Once your materials are complete, you go into this middle step, which means a visit. Someone will come out with you to the program and assess your answers in those materials you've completed, review documentation, and do observations in your classroom. So for NECPA, that's verification. NAEYC calls it candidacy and site visit. NAC accreditation is validation visit. The finish line is the results. You've done all this great work. What are your results after the visit occurs? NECPA calls this council results. NAEYC is accreditation decision. NAC is commission review and decision. And although each organization uses its own distinct verbiage, they all mean the same thing. You get something either in the mail or in your email saying how you did and areas for improvement, if any are needed. There's also a maintenance step. All organizations call this annual report, where you're going to tell them about the good work you've done throughout the year, sometimes professional development plans. It's unique for each organization. So what are the number of steps you have to take yourself in order to achieve your award? With NECPA, it's 2 steps, enrollment and verification. With NAEYC, it's 3 steps, enrolled, applicant, and candidacy/site visit. And with NAC accreditation, it's self-study, documentation review, and validation visit. So 2, 3, and 3. Questions so far on our overview? Perfect. And again, we're going to do a deep dive into each of these areas. If you are a visual learner like me and all that nice auditory information went in one ear and out the other, no worries, you are in good company. So here are some nice graphs for you. Most organizations follow a cyclical pattern, and you can see that here. NAEYC's is top down. This was the best outline I could find, but it goes back up as well, back into start at 4, meeting the standards with your site visit after your renewal. NECPA is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4 and 5 being those annual reporting and annual maintenance. We'll revisit these charts in the coming slides as well. And you'll have all these resources in your email. So don't feel like you have to memorize or write anything down. We really want to just give you knowledge to get started today and answer any specific questions as we go through it. So these will be resources you can keep. All right, so big question, what is the cost to go through the award maintenance, through the award process and maintenance fees? Oh, we've got a great question here real quick. We are a Head Start agency. We already do a self-assessment and annual report as part of our performance standards. Does this meet requirements? We have several Head Start programs that participate with NECPA accreditation. I know that NAEYC and NAC also do Head Start recognition. Whether or not it is the equivalency to the standards and will allow you to go any faster through the process, I'm not sure for NAEYC or for NAC. For NECPA, because of the validity of our own scoring process, you would need to participate with accreditation. So again, there's fees that match those steps. So the beginning and the middle, and then award maintenance. So our beginning step here, enrollment for NECPA, is based on the license capacity. So if you are a smaller program, 7 to 60, 385. If you have a nice chunky monkey program, 240 children plus, it would be 550. NAEYC's a little different. They do it based on your enrollment. So again, different tiers. I think they have 5 different tiers, starting at 575 and going up to 1,025 for that first step. And then step 2, remember there's 2 steps with their enrollment. Step 2, starting at 300 up to 550. NAC is similar to us. Fees are based on license capacity, starting at 400 and going up to 700. NECPA is offering unique options for bundled programs, which include enrollment and verification, as well as 2 expedited fees altogether for Oklahoma programs. And I'm happy to share that information in our follow-up email as well. So for verification, the same thing based on your license capacity, starting at 1155 and going up to about 1500. NAEYC 950 to 1625 and NAC 1500 to 2800. For annual reporting, that's those 2 award maintenance reports. I'm sorry, so it's 2 for NECPA. So the total for your award maintenance would be 550 because annual report 1 and 2. NAEYC has 5 reports. So 5 times 650 up to 1025. And NAC has 3 reports, starting at 400 up to 530. These are again based on enrollment or license capacity. NECPA is a flat fee, regardless of your size. So on average, adding all these fees together, what is the cost to have this award? NECPA is a 3-year award, and that award for our smaller programs, 7 to 60 on average, with all fees together, is about 700, and for our largest programs is about 900. For NAEYC, there is a 5-year award, and for that 5-year term, each year totals about 1,000 to 1,600. For NAC, it's a 4-year award, and it's about 600 to 1,000 each year. There are some additional fees. I don't want you to feel like we're not giving you every piece of knowledge. So printed materials, is there a cost for materials? What are the self-study materials that you need? The only one that charges it is for NAC, but you do receive a PDF copy of the accreditation manual with your enrollment for NAC. No fees for NECPA and none for NECPA. Everything that you receive with your enrollment is actually available for free to download off our website today. Visit rescheduling has its own fees. If you receive a deferral for each agency, they have an additional fee as well. If you're running a little behind in your annual report maintenance, or if you have a big shift in your location. So we won't spend too much time on these because we've got a lot of additional areas to cover today. So what kind of support are you hoping to receive, or what is available for each organization? Again, this is a poll from the last time that we presented. Okay, shoo, there we go. And based upon the feedback from that poll, these were the areas that folks wanted to see the most support. So custom training, checklists, and guidance. So with NECPA accreditation, included with your enrollment is unlimited phone and email support. We do have custom resources as well that we can give you. So if you're finding you're struggling to see where you would best align with a standard, you can email us and we'll try to get you that resource within 24 hours. For NAEYC, again, unlimited phone and email, same for NAC. There's no response time specific for NAEYC resources, but they have a phenomenal online platform called Torch, or their accreditation portal, where there is oodles and oodles of professional development and information available. Same for NAC accreditation, because they're also a membership-based organization. They have lots of great member benefits. Training, we have many pre-recorded sessions that walk you through NECPA accreditation processes, self-study, verification, putting together your documentation, all at no cost. We do offer custom live trainings as well, and custom trainings for $250 an hour. The training for NAEYC starts at $300 for their pre-recorded sessions and goes up to $400 plus for live and custom. I wasn't able to find training videos, visual videos for the NAC, but they do have those weekly webinars, and the focus varies depending on the area focus for that week, and that's included with your enrollment. So we have kind of two pieces of that puzzle. So we have support and then also resources. So if you're a visual learner like me, there's many video walkthroughs for both NECPA and NAEYC, because those accreditation portal resources that NAEYC has are all phenomenal. They also have navigation videos to help you through that accreditation portal, because most of the things you'll do as you go through the NAEYC process is uploading them within their portal. With NECPA, we also have downloadable guides. So a standards book, self-assessment instrument, templates, logs, checklists, sample policies, state-by-state resources, even lesson plans and parent engagement activities, all available for free. All of NAEYC resources are also free here under their Torch or under their digital portfolio templates. They have oodles and oodles of them. And then with your paid enrollment come all the different tools available for your use. So things to walk you through every single standard and step of your process are all included. For the member benefits with the NAC accreditation, they have their Tools of the Trade, which is a newsletter and a great resource for downloadable resources. And then available for purchase is either their printed or digital manuals. They also have an active online blog chock full of goodies for you. So a variety of resources regardless of organization. So we're going to dive into the differences between the standards for each agency and what it looks like. Most of them are focused on the same areas. We want to see how your facility is maintained, how you're upholding high levels of health and safety, and of course, high quality teacher-child interactions through your classroom observations, as well as your educational lesson planning. So how we break that out is a little different. And just to give you a heads up, NAEYC is going through a really big redesign in 2025, which will go into effect in March. They have some great resources available to either view their changes or to download their, I'm not sure if their new standards are available yet, I have to go check. But just to let you know, these are based on their current standards, not the 2025 standards, which are, again, very different. So with NECPA accreditation, we have 219 standards. NAEYC has 144 indicators or standards with 394 on-site items, meaning the questions that you have to answer. NAC has 97 standards with over 200 indicators, the questions that you have to answer. Each organization puts it together into areas that are similar. So everything from, supervision to behavior management, facility maintenance, playgrounds, teacher-child interaction, they're all together to make it a little easier for you to conquer that elephant one bite at a time. And for NECPA, it's 14 different chapters. NAEYC has 10 different standard sets, and NAC has 7 components. So again, every agency organizes standards similarly, but just in different kind of components, different sets. What is the percentage of standards you must meet in order to achieve your award? With NECPA, it's 100%. Our goal is always a yes to each standard, with the exception if it's truly not applicable. And we'll go through what that looks like together in the coming slides. NAEYC has an 80% overall threshold, with 60% minimum needing to be met for each of the standards sets. They also have 10 standards, I think, that are non-negotiable. You must meet them. It's an immediate deferral if they're unmet at the time of the visit. NAC is a little different. They're looking for overall compliance with the ultimate goal of meeting everything. We look at the number of classrooms. NECPA looks at 100% of your classrooms. So we're going to spend a full day as a guest at your program. And with NAEYC, at least 50% of classrooms, up to 10 max. And they look at 1 per age group. With NAC, it's also 100% of the classrooms. We have crosswalks with each of these organizations. So if you wanted to do a deep dive into what the content of the standards entails, we can provide that to you as part of our follow-up. We're also putting together a standards crosswalks with the old Oklahoma Star Level 5 standards. So you can see where with NECPA you would already be meeting or exceeding the standards. So what do again, for my visual learners out there, what are the manuals and assessment documents that you'll receive or fill out? So NECPA has a resource guide to support your question and answers here. NAEYC has their early learning standards and assessment items, and you'll go through this, but the assessor will bring a copy of their own to complete. NAC, because it's only available for purchase, I don't have a picture to match here. So now we've reviewed what the standards entail. So where do those live and how are they presented to you? Usually manuals and assessment documents. So again, with NECPA, it's the standards book and resource guide that gives you the content of the standard itself. We have them numbered. So if you call us and say, hey, I'm stuck on standard 10.5, we can go and pull that up with you. We also provide you with examples of the documentation or observation that we're looking for in order to achieve that standard, as well as the corresponding number for the question. So what question matches that standard content, which you'll answer as part of your visit materials within the self-assessment document. The visit materials for NECPA consists of 2 things. We want 1 documentation box for all your policies to match Part A of our book, which is dedicated specifically to any standards related to policies or written practices. And then for the observable items, that'll be answered in Part B of the standards assessment instrument. For NECPA, it's the standards and assessment items, and that walks you through those 10 standard sets and each of the indicators under them. The visit materials are done specifically through their assessors. They'll bring these 3 tools with them to complete. There are some items that you have to upload again into that accreditation portal, formerly known as Torch, and we can go through what those are together. Let's see, do I have a slide for that? Yes, within the verification slide. And then for self-study for the NAC, you get a nice chunky manual, again, walking you through each of the standards content areas. And then you'll complete for your visit a report. You'll do checklists within your observation tool that your assessor will then use, and put together your training log for your educators. Questions so far? I know this is a ton of information. So if there's anything that I can stop and go back to, or we can look at more closely, please let me know. Okay. All right, staff qualifications. We were somewhat concerned with this when we did our poll, so we won't spend too much time here, and you'll have these again for comparative resources in your inbox. At a minimum for NECPA, we're looking for a CCP or CDA, or your state equivalency credential, and 3 years experience for your director. They must be at least 21 years of age and have served as your administrator for a year, or have a course with business administration. NAEYC is unique in that because of that 80% threshold for overall standards, you do not have to meet these qualifications for your educators or directors and administrators if you've met all those other standards. So that's an interesting aspect here. But they do have two different distinctions between your instructional admin and your operational admin, because one is pedagogical and one is focused on supporting the program's administration. So the higher degree here for your bachelor's or your state certification and bachelor's in education. You also have to have an equivalent credential or 9 business credits. We've got a great question here. Does certificate of mastery count? Yes, it does. Certificate of mastery would be that state equivalent. Where would an assistant director fall here? Assistant directors are not evaluated within the NECPA process. I don't believe NAEYC has one specific either. We're looking at whomever is the operator of your program, and then your educators in that classroom. So if you're lucky enough to have an assistant director at your program serving with you, that would just be a bonus for your program overall. For a NAC, it's similar in that you have to be 21. You do have to meet these qualifications for NAC. That's my understanding as part of their overall compliance. And they're looking for, at a minimum, a bachelor's in a related field for early childhood education with a minimum of 15 ECE credits. Also 1 year as a minimum, 1 year minimum as an admin, and 1 year of teaching. Again, you can have a director credential or 9 CEUs in business. Another great question here. Does the owner and director need to meet these requirements, or just the director? Whomever is serving under your licensing as the director and is serving there every day would need to meet these qualifications. Another great question. My director was the assistant director for 3 years and has been my director for over a year. Would that qualify her? In reviewing each of these, yes for NECPA, yes for NAC, depending on her level of education. And NAEYC does not have a qualification for experience, just for education and business administration. So perhaps, but we would need to know about their level of credentialing. Good questions, thank you. Keep them coming, please. So for lead teachers, again, NECPA is looking for someone who's 21 or older, and at a minimum has a CCP, CDA, that certificate of mastery, and 2 years experience. Or certificate of mastery, your state level credential, as well as leadership training. And this can be online training, in-house training, something you've taken as part of a business course, that would work as well. And we're looking for one lead teacher per age group, not per classroom, per age group. For NAEYC, you have to be at least 18 to serve as a lead teacher and have your state certification or AA with 36 ECE credits. Again, no experience needed, and they're looking for one per classroom. Just as a reminder, if you're meeting that 80% threshold for all other standards, the certification is not needed. For the NAC credential, again, 18 years old with an AA or higher, and a minimum of 12 to 18 credits in ECE. They also need to have been a teacher for 2 years, and they're looking for one per classroom. Oh, great question. What is a state certification? So you have your professional development ladder in Oklahoma. The CCP and CDA is that level 4. So you have an equivalency to those two credentials with the master teacher credential, and that would be the state certification that would meet the same qualification. Hope that answered your question. Let me know if I can clarify.
Storm, it looks like Becky had an additional question as well about her director.
Oh, gotcha. So if they are working towards their AA and ACE, I know that that would meet NECPA's qualifications because it even exceeds that minimum credential. It does not look like that would meet the NAC and the NAEYC certifications because they're looking for those bachelor degree directors. Good question.
Something that it's in the standards book as well for our lead teachers and our directors. We accept 12 credits in ECE, so it can be whatever they have. If it's an associate's in ECE, bachelor's, or 12 credits, that would count for the education requirements.
Really great point of clarity. Thank you, Sarah. Got a couple more questions here about the state certifications. So it's my understanding that in Oklahoma, you have your professional development ladder. I think I might actually have a screenshot of that somewhere I can pull up and share. The CCP and CDA are equivalent to the level 4 credential. And I believe the certificate of mastery, so your master teacher certificate in Oklahoma, would be the same as the CCP and CDA. Got one more question here. Great questions, everyone. Thank you. Lead teachers going with NECPA, they must have been with us for 2 years minimum to count. 2 years at any center serving as an educator. So it doesn't have to be at your location, but we're looking for the tenured educator to serve in this higher role. We've got one more question here. Is the age group considered infant, toddler, and preschool? NECPA recognizes 3 distinct age groups: infant, toddler, preschool, and school age. For NAEYC, they have, let's see, I've got this in a different slide. Let me scroll down. Infant, toddler 2, preschool, kindergarten, and school age as applicable for NAEYC. I don't know what the NAC distinctions are for classrooms, but I can pull that up for age groups. Great questions, everybody. Thank you so much. All right, going to the next area of qualification for assistant teachers. We're looking for 18 years old in all organizations. And with NECPA, we're trying to push for that higher level of qualification, but understand that some people are fresh to the world of ECE. So we may want to put them on a plan of action to achieve one of these areas of our goals: the CCP CDA, ECE, 3 credits in ECE, or 6 credits in ECE. Our ultimate goal is to have 33%. And I know that sounds like a really funny percentage, but 33% of assistant teachers having one of these areas, or at a very minimum, a plan of action. For NAEYC, all assistant teachers are expected to have a CDA or 12 credits in ECE, no experience needed. Very similar for NAC, CDA or 12 to 18 credits in ECE, or that state-approved equivalent. So that could be your master teacher and 1 year experience. Great question here. So long as our lead teachers are at least a level 4 on the Oklahoma Professional Development Ladder, that will meet NAEYC state certification. Let's see. State certification. Let me go ahead and I'll follow up with you on that because I don't want to give you bad knowledge. Sarah, can we write that down and we'll do a follow-up resource for you?
You got it.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right, we have a quick question here. If your assistant teachers are in the process of obtaining their CDA, would that count as a plan of action? 100%. Yes, that's exactly what we're looking for. All right, perfect. If you have teachers' aides, so for NECPA, that role is 18 years old. They can or cannot have completed their high school degree yet. So if they are working towards that, they can serve as a teacher's aide and count in your ratio, but they can never be left alone with children. With NAEYC, it's similar to their qualifications for assistant teachers, CDA or 12 credits. With NAC accreditation, all employees included in the staff-to-child ratio must have a minimum of high school diploma. So I took that as meaning teacher's aide because it's not a defined role specific to NAC accreditation. All right, quick question here. You cannot employ anyone under the age of 18, not in any of these agencies' qualifications. No, that would be a volunteer position, which has to be 16 years or older. Good question. All right, any other questions before we go on to continuing education? We've got about 20 minutes left and about 20 slides, so I think we'll get it all done. All right. So for annual staff training, for NECPA, if it's your first year of being employed at an accredited center, we're looking for 30 hours of continuing education, and that can be in-house, that can be free webinars you take, that could be pretty much anything that you can quantify as training. Same for your ongoing education. We're looking for 24 hours of continuing education. So maybe you have a spring training and a fall training, and in between you've got some CDA courses you're working on. All of that will count towards these hours. NAEYC is really unique in that they don't require a minimum threshold of hours. They expect you to identify specific to each of your employees what it is they need to continue to grow in their role. So you have to put together a professional development plan and submit that with your annual reports. For NAC accreditation, the threshold for directors is 35 hours, and it doesn't matter, where you are in your term with your program, either your first or ongoing. And then for all other employees, 25 hours. And they're looking specifically for leadership and supervision for the director and for employees related to the age group of the children that they're working with. Questions on continuing education before we dive into processes? Sarah, anything you wanted to add so far that I've overlooked?
The only thing I would add is if you have anything, feel free to email over questions, or we can even set up some individual calls to go through some of those specific teacher qualifications. Since everybody's program is set up differently, you might have a certain amount of staff that qualifies as a lead, a certain amount of staff that qualifies as an assistant. So feel free to email us. It might make sense to just kind of go through those individually, just because that's definitely a point. A lot of directors want to make sure their staff is qualified. So before they number one priority. So feel free to just contact us and we can go through those individually with you. Any questions you have.
Yeah. Ms. Hughes, we'll follow up with you specifically on that because there's some different avenues for qualifications. Great question. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sarah. All right, eligibility. What do you need to have in place before you can enroll in each of these organizations? So there's a couple areas of focus. What number of children do you have to serve? What ages does the organization recognize as part of your accreditation? Do you have a particular facility type? What is your licensing status? And can you opt into a multi-site option? So for NECPA, we're looking for a program who's licensed for at least 7 children. NAEYC does not have that threshold, and NAC is 15 or more for their license. We've got a great question here. Can you accept children over the age of 8 years old? Yes. So age is recognized. So for NECPA, 0 to 8, with a before and after school component. So we don't do elementary education accreditation, just before and after school care. Same with NAEYC, their primary is 0 to 8 and school age upon request. Same NAC is very similar to us, 0 to 8, and school age, again, if it's served within the program, so before and after school care. NECPA is a valid accreditation for center and family homes. We work with any type of program. We have Montessori, we have faith-based, we have small family homes, corporate programs. You know, our standards are non-prescriptive, so they are applicable regardless of the type of facility or philosophy of your school. NAEYC does center or school-based, so they're often in different elementary educations if they have a preschool component. NAC accreditation is valid just for centers. Your licensing status. So we're looking for your license to be in good standing, or if you have a license exemption, presenting that to us for approval. NAEYC is similar. You have to be regulated by your licensing agency at the highest level. And for NAC accreditation, you must be in compliance with state and local agencies. So we have a great question here. Do you have to have an after-school program? Oh, thank you, Sarah. That's correct. No, you don't. You don't need to have one. It's just if you do have it, we are able to provide accreditation for it. For multi-site offerings, it's for family home providers, so I'll skip that component. But we do have an electronic filing system for master policies and documentation. So if you are part of a collection of schools or franchises or corporate programs, maybe you have 3 schools and you don't want to have to present those master documents at each visit, you can have them pre-approved, and then the rest of your centers will be approved under those master documents. So they'll just focus on their center accreditation. For NECPA accreditation, there is some satellite location availability. You have to meet quite a few different eligibility requirements. So we would just encourage you to reach out to them if you're looking to see if you can do satellite locations. For NAC accreditation, it's 1 self-study, 1 enrollment per location or per license. We have a great question here. What happens if you get a serious non-compliance that's out of your control and you've let the teacher go who caused it? Do we lose the accreditation? For each organization, self-reports are required, and each of those self-reports are reviewed by those organizations' determining bodies. So depending on the severity of the licensing violation, that will determine the accreditation outcome for each organization.
Storm, we have a question from Rachel as well regarding STAR status.
Okay.
And Rachel,
missed it.
oh, no problem. It's just about Becky's. So yes, but for NECPA, you can still apply for accreditation if you've moved to a 4-star. And I'm not too sure about NAEYC with that. I think it's the same. I think you can still apply for accreditation.
Yes, yeah. So I know the purpose of today's call is really to empower you with if you are a 5-star program and you'd like to maintain that 5 stars, but any program starting off, if you're a 1-star, you can always apply for accreditation. Any organization, so long as you're holding your license and you meet these eligibility thresholds, they'll gladly encourage you to enroll. Yeah, great question. So what are the self-study steps? Again, I really like charts, so sorry if you're not a chart person, but I hope this setup works well for you. So we're going to look at the terminology. We've already done that, so I'll go ahead and skip that. What's the timeline? So NECPA's enrollment is valid for up to 2 years, but you can go as quickly or take as long as you'd like to achieve your self-study goals of implementing all the standards into your practices. Again, it's 1 step, and we've already reviewed the cost, so I'll keep going. NAEYC, again, it's a very similar threshold. It's 12 months per step. So if you're in this enrolled step and you go to 13 months, you got to enroll again. So you have up to 12 months per step because they really want to keep you going along each step. For NAC accreditation, they have a minimum of 6 months and a maximum of 2 years. NAFCC is similar in that you have to have a minimum of 6 months. Questions on enrollment timeline? Okay. So great question. Is it doable to be done by September? Yes. And I'll show you in the coming slides for the verification and result timelines, how that could work for you. So we've gone through what the self-study materials look like. So once you're done implementing the standards, you've answered every question within these organizations' manuals or checklists, you'll go ahead and put together your documentation box. For NAEYC, you'll put together your printed materials and upload your documents as an applicant into the accreditation portal. For NAC, you'll put together your documentation box and go through everything with a checklist. NECPA is offering a digital self-assessment instrument to be used with expedited timelines. What that enables us to do is see your progress as you go through each of these parts. So we have, again, those 2 parts for our program, Part A, documents, and Part B, observations. We also have a classroom component where we look at your qualifications for your educators. So if you're stuck on a question or if you have something for us to look at together, that digital SAI allows us to do that. Oh, I went through a lot of these in our previous slide, sorry about that. So completing your tools or your assessments, what does it look like? What does the answer type expected of you within the book or material? What kind of submission will you have to present to the organization? How do you put together documents to support your answers? And are there surveys that you must complete with your program? NECPA does 2 types of answers. We have multiple choice, yes, no, or not applicable. We accept not applicable if it's truly not something you offer at your program, meaning you don't have an infant component. You don't provide care to infants. That would be a not applicable standard. Everything else should be hopefully a yes. We also want to see documents. Those are your policies, your handbooks, things that you've put into practice to meet those standards. For NAEYC, it's documents only, and you're going to do that through your online or printed portfolio. You're going to affirm to yourself using those checklists that you're meeting it, but we'll go through what it looks like on the visit day with those documents in the next slides. And then for NAC, you're going to use that digital manual or the printed one ready for your assessor. You're going to use checkboxes. So instead of yes, no, it's checkboxes. Yes, I'm meeting this. You'll also put together documents. So your submission type, you're going to use the digital instrument if you're participating in the expedited process. So the digital yes, no, not applicable questions. For NECPA, for NAEYC, it's your online or printed classroom portfolios. And for NAC, it's that checklist with your administrator report, as well as your classroom observations. So you have gone and done the walkthroughs with your team, and you have affirmed in your classroom observations through those checklists, yes, we are doing all these standards. Your documents for NECPA should be organized either in a documentation box with the labels that we provide to you, or a binder if preferred. Or if you're feeling real snazzy and tech savvy, you can do an optional online option. With NAEYC, it's printed in a binder for your classroom portfolios, or you upload it online. There are components that you must upload online as part of your applicant process. NAC also uses the terminology documentation box, and they say it must be put into that documentation box. Each of these organizations uses family and staff surveys or questionnaires. NECPA looks for anonymously answered and submitted surveys, and you are encouraged to do one at the beginning and one at the end. That way you can evaluate your progress and work towards some goals based off of your initial family and staff assessments. I know that was a bunch of knowledge. Is there any questions on that? I know we're running short on time, so I think I might get going a little faster here. So verification, so terms, timeline, and cost, and are there unique requirements? So the timeline with NECPA is once you say, I'm ready for a visit, come out and spend the day with me, your visit will be scheduled within 120 days or within 60 days if expedited. And we're offering expedited visits for all Oklahoma programs. For NAEYC, it's within 180 days. And with NAC, it's 90 to 120 days. It's seasonal with NAC, so it depends on when you request it, if you're the 90 or the 120-day window. Unique requirements for NECPA. We want to see that you have been in business for a year. That just means that you're a well-established organization. Most small businesses fail within that first year, so we just want to see that you're successful and will be able to maintain these standards. Your applicant documents must be pre-approved by NAEYC in order to be eligible to request your site visit. And with NAC, that director who applied for enrollment must be the same as during your visit, or they must be employed at the program for at least 6 months when you have your visit. What does the visit day look like? With NECPA, it's a one-day visit, Monday through Friday. You also get to know the day of your visit. You'll tell us 5 days during your visit scheduling request that you are blocking out. So we'll schedule around those days. But other than that, we're going to let you know what day will be there. The verifier will also call you 1 to 2 days before to go through any final questions you have on the process and to establish when they'll arrive, just to introduce themselves as well, because we are an invited guest celebrating your success during this visit day. With NAEYC, it's a 1 to 3 day visit, depending on the size of your program, typically Monday through Friday. They offer something kind of cool. If you want them to come and look at your documentation on the weekend, you can request that. They're also scheduling within a 15-day business window. So that means sometimes 3 to 4 weeks, depending on those business day windows. But your assessor will call you at least 1 day before. With NAC, it's again a 1-day visit that sometimes may extend past 6 o'clock. You'll be given a 2-day window in which your unannounced visit will occur. Questions on visit process? All right, let's keep going. We got 5 more minutes. So NECPA, again, will use your digitally answered yes, no, or not applicable questions. After the verifier has gone through and visited with your classrooms and met your teachers and done the observations and reviewed documents, should there be any items non-verified, you get an opportunity to provide feedback. So we perform an exit interview where you go through each item that may be non-verified or that you answered no or not applicable to. You provide a written response, and all of that information together goes to the Council and Commission for NECPA as a complete picture of what happened for your visit day and your common practices. You get to keep a copy of any of those pages, and because you'll be using the digital instrument, you get an immediate copy of everything from your visit day and an immediate opportunity to provide responses and documents to fulfill any areas of noncompliance. With NAEYC, the assessor cannot unfortunately share with you any part of the completed tools. It's not part of their validation process. They do go through a closing meeting with you, which is an opportunity for them to verify that the assessment was completed according to their protocols, but they're not able to review with you during the visit any of those results. Again, this is all part of their 2019 to 2025 visits, so they may be changing some of these protocols come March. We would just encourage you again to reach out to our colleagues at NAEYC. NAC accreditation has a very similar visit process to us. They have an exit interview where you can provide a written response to any non-verified items. You can also make a copy of any visit documents, or they can provide those to you for free after your visit. All right, once you've gone through all this great work, you will be issued results. So for NECPA, it's within 60 days of your visit or within 2 weeks if expedited. All Oklahoma programs will be expedited. NAEYC accreditation is within 90 days of your visit. NAC accreditation is within 120 days of your visit. I'm missing a slide. So there is another slide that I have here that goes through goes through each of these areas more in depth, but I know them and I'll just refer to you, give them to you here. So NECPA is a 3-year term. NAEYC is a 5-year term. NAC is a 4-year term. With NECPA, if there are some areas that you didn't quite meet during that first initial visit, we give you a work plan of particular standards that we'd like to see a little more evidence for, and then you achieve full accreditation. If you have documents that are missing that are substantial, we may request a substantial amount of documents from you. You really shouldn't have a visit if you're not ready to review those documents that day, so this is pretty uncommon. Deferred with revisit means we give you a work plan, but it does mean we have to come back out and do another observation with you because there were some observable standards which were not met. This means inconsistent high-quality teacher-child interactions or basic licensing violations such as sight and sound supervision or behavior management. With NAEYC, it's 2 results, accreditation or deferred. Deferred meaning you need to go back to enrolled and have another visit. Similarly for the NAC, decision to defer, they give you a work plan specific to the items that you need to achieve accreditation, or decision to deny, where you would need to go back to enrolled and have another visit. And I know we have 1 more minute. Go, go, go. So award maintenance requirements, it's very similar. Everybody wants to know how you're maintaining your standards and tell us about your new teachers, should you have any. Your renewal steps are very similar. For each agency, you have to go through enrollment and visit again, with the exception of NAEYC. Sometimes if you've been doing reporting consistently, you get to keep your award without an additional visit. Here are those nice graphs again for reference, and we're at time, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up for us. Again, you'll have all of this information in your inbox. I know this was a lot of data. So if there's anything you're like, ooh, what was that great thing that she said NAEYC had a resource for? We encourage you to go here and download any resources for any organization because you really can't go wrong. Each agency does really phenomenal work, has done so for decades and decades. very open folks to talk with, so encourage you to reach out to them if there's something that you want to do a deep dive in with one of their teams with. Or if we can help you with a meeting, we would encourage you to reach out to us because we want to make sure that you're set up for success. So thank you so much for your time today. If there's nothing additional, we'll go ahead and let everybody go. All right, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. All right, thank you. Bye-bye.